Hello and welcome to the Career Changers. Our guest today is Lindsay Gordon, career coach for analytically minded people. Lindsay said, I hit career dissatisfaction rock bottom in 2014. I was feeling disengaged and undervalued and couldn't shake my negative attitude. Turns out my manager and colleagues calling me out was the kick in the butt I needed. The problem is, I was hyper-focused on all the negative parts of my job. What I needed to do was understand why my current role wasn't a good fit for me and discover what would be a good fit. By learning about myself and what I wanted, I could understand and communicate what would be a good fit. I started doing any exercise I could find that would help me reflect on what was important to me and what I needed out of a job. I started finding the common threads between all the pieces of my background that felt all over the place: engineer, technical support, career. And I put together a framework and I emerged with direction, confidence, energy, and a plan. I knew I had to share with others who were also struggling, so I'm here to help you do the same. And this line from the book, Do Over by Jon Acuff, sums it up nicely. For some people, rock bottom is a trampoline. It springs them up from the depths back into the light, fueled by a decision never to experience that low again, or to help make sure other people don't end up there either. Today, Lindsay is going to talk about her career change, how she went from darkness to light, and how today she's helping analytically minded people to find a new path in life. Hi, Lindsay. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
That was quite of an introduction. But I really like, for some people, rock bottom is a trampoline. And yeah, maybe we can talk about more that later.
Yeah.
But generally, we talk about, well, we start by talking about your background. So, how did you start your professional life? Or better, what was your first job?
Yeah. My very first job was running a summer camp for my little sister and all her friends. I think I did that at age 11. But my first job out of college was recycled water engineering. My family is from Australia. I was born there, even though I lost my very cute accent when I left when I was 4. But I was helping Australia deal with their drought and trying to increase the usage of recycled water. So that was my first real job out of college.
Very interesting. So, what was your dream job when you were a child?
This is so interesting that you asked this because I don't have any recollection, but I was recently looking through some papers because I'm getting ready to move. And I found some little notes that my mom had kept from early on. And it said, I want to be an actress. And if not that, a scientist. And then the other thing said, I want to be an actress and a violinist. So clearly I had actress on the mind, and then toss up between violinist and scientist.
So, what is your educational background?
Yeah, I went to a math and science high school and then ended up doing engineering for undergrad. So I have a general engineering degree with a concentration in bioengineering.
That sounds quite impressive.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, you said I've had 3 careers and 2 internships, and no one of them has been bioengineering related. My degree from the incredibly awesome school, Franklin College of Engineering. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, I think it's important to tell the stories of what it really looks like to find a career that fits. And so often, part of that is that the thing that you got for your degree might not be part of your job. I think sometimes we feel pressure that, like, oh my gosh, I got this engineering degree, but I'm not working as an engineer. or I got this law degree and, I feel like I should keep being a lawyer, even though it's not right for me. So I think it's interesting that I got an engineering degree and I have never actually worked in bioengineering. So sometimes our degree can be an interesting jumping off point for all of the other careers that we'll have.
Yeah, and also because when we choose what to study, generally we don't have experience of what
Yeah,
will come later. So how do we know that actually is what is
exactly.
right for us? And sometimes
Exactly.
the imagination creates an idea of what a profession or career can be, but then reality can be quite different from that.
Yeah. Yep. So I want to give everybody grace to, be able to have careers that are different than from what they studied.
Mm. So, how and when did you start thinking about becoming a career coach?
I had no plans to do this. I had no plans to run my own business. And so the way that I found out about it was listening to what other people were telling me about my strengths and the things that I was good at. And I think this is a really common part of changing careers. So I was working in technical support at the time. And as people would join our team at Google, they would say, I'm so stressed about my career. What if I get stuck here for forever? I don't know how to talk to my manager. And so I found that I really enjoyed having conversations with people about how to think about career. And, long story short, people said to me, I think you would be a great coach. So I said, I don't really know what that is. I'm going to go experiment and test it out. I ended up getting training for it and then found out that this was something I really loved and had a lot of strengths in. So I think that's so common because it's not always that we're like, oh, I know what would be a good fit for me, or I know where I want to make a career change. But listening to interesting feedback that you're getting, interesting ideas that other people have, is a great way to think about making a career change.
So you said, my purpose in life is to structure people thinking so that they can make decisions and move forward to explore, experience, and live life. I see waffling about career decisions, sometimes for more than 10 years, as an unacceptable barrier to people doing what they want to do and feeling fully alive. It's absolutely exhausting to ask yourself the same questions over and over again. And I really identify with this.
Yeah, me too.
And there is immense freedom when you are finally decided in a way that feels good to you. How do you help people to move on from indecision?
Yeah, I find the best way is to help people get clear about what they want. And that in turn gives them confidence in their choices. So, for example, somebody who comes to me and says, like, I have been thinking about quitting for 10 years. Like, I'm just always going back and forth. Do I want to quit? Is it better for me to stay here? Do I actually want to go do this other thing? Right? That's the exhausting waffling, as I call it. And if I can help somebody see what is it about your current role that's working or not working, what's aligned with what's important to you, what's aligned with your strengths, if we can build that framework of here's what's working, here's what's not working, then it's much easier to make a decision about, oh, I actually choose to stay because 8 out of the 10 things that I need to feel good in a career are really being fulfilled. Or if somebody sees like, wow, we are at like 1 out of 10, I get why I keep having this feeling that this is not the place for me. So I think that clarity and that structured thinking is what allows my clients to make really confident decisions.
What helps people to get clarity?
I think there's exploration that can happen. And also It's great for me. I like doing structured exercises because I like when people ask me questions, right? When somebody asks me a question, I'm like, huh, interesting. Okay, I haven't thought about that before. So thinking about values, thinking about strengths, and the more that you can experiment about what you actually enjoy and do some of these exercises, I think that's one of the best ways for you to get clarity.
So, in your experience, what are the biggest challenges? The biggest challenges that you had to face during your career change, and what are the most common challenges that people have to overcome?
Yeah. I think my challenges and some of the most common challenges are similar, and it all has to do with the pressure that we feel about our career. So, no matter where you live in the world, there is some type of pressure, some type of societal messages that you're getting, some type of family messages that you're getting. And that's why it's so hard to really listen to what is actually right for me in my career. And so for me, I think this happened two times. Once when I was thinking about leaving my position at the recycled water company, I had planned to stick around through this rotation program that was several years long, but I found out pretty soon that it just wasn't the right thing for me. And so thinking about leaving early, a lot of the feedback was, oh, well, you should probably just stick it out, just wait till the 3 years is up. But that really didn't feel good to me. And then a little bit later in my career, I worked at Google for many years. And while I'm really grateful for many of the opportunities that I had there, it ultimately wasn't right for me. But when you tell people that you're going to leave Google, they say, why would you ever do that? Google's the number one place in the world to work. So I think really trusting my own experience and intuition above the pressures and the opinions of other people. And that's really, I think, one of the biggest things for my clients is, how do I learn to listen to what's actually right for me?
Yeah, and many times that is about, it requires a lot of inner work, because generally we are taught what is the right path, or what are the steps that
Yes.
we have to take, but we have to undo that in some way
Yeah.
during time, and go back to really, as you say, feel, trust what is right for us. And to
Yeah.
do that, I guess, is requires a lot of faith that our decisions that are going to pay off.
Right. Right. Yep. Absolutely.
So you said a little bit, you mentioned this in your answer now, but I wanted to ask you, how common in your experience is for people to fall into a job just because it feels the right thing to do?
It's so common. And I like to normalize how common this is, because usually when people come to me, they say, I've been falling into jobs. I fell into my first career and then I kind of just, let the river take me where it was flowing. Or I feel like I've been sleepwalking is something that people say a lot. I'm just in the career that I did for my degree. And I think that that's so common. I think that it's very common to fall into definitely your first job because you don't have that much experience and you haven't gotten to have different roles so far. So very common to fall into your first one, and probably common to fall into a couple. And I always try to celebrate people who come to me and they're like, wait, I want to actually make an intentional choice for this next thing. And I see it as a big celebration. You've gotten to the moment where you've fallen into a couple of things. We've learned what hasn't worked usually. And now you're really taking the time to look for that intention of, what do I actually choose?
Yeah. And many times making an intentional choice, it requires to learn to say no to the
Yeah.
things that we don't want. And that sometimes is actually the most difficult part.
Yeah.
Nowadays that we are bombarded with there are so many possibilities, opportunities. there is this feeling of missing out something.
Oh,
But it doesn't
yes.
mean because something comes to you that you have to take it if it's not aligned with what feels right for yourself.
Agree.
So how our mindset about money can affect our career decision in life?
I think there are many aspects to the interaction between money and career. I think it is a reality of how our world works. And so when people feel guilty about, taking a particular job because it has a high salary, I think that can be a completely reasonable way to choose a job if that's what you need. And everybody has a different situation. So you might be caring for family members. You might be supporting kids. You might have a chronic illness that requires high investment or specialized equipment or whatever it is. So I think money can mean something different to a lot of different people. So that's one aspect. I think it is a very real part of life, and I want people to feel financial stability. So if for you, getting a really high income is what's going to best support you and your family, awesome. I support that. And there are also clients that I see who are choosing jobs just based on money, where actually money is not one of their biggest values at this phase in their life or in the life that they lead. And so that's, I think, where you can get into trouble if you don't identify like what is right for me in this? How much money do I need? How important is money to me at this phase of life? Is there an amount that is really going to help me feel secure and set up? But if there's something above that, or I'm just looking at shiny jobs because they're offering me more pay, you can get into trouble being in a job that you don't actually want to be in, but saying like, oh, but it's a really high salary and, shouldn't I want that? Or maybe other people are saying like, oh my gosh, you'd be, foolish to turn this down because of the high salary. So those are a couple of ways I think it interacts, but it's so personal. So again, as always with all of my message, it's all about figuring out what is actually right for you.
We often forget how each of us with our choices can have a positive impact in the world. How do you feel your career change has made the world a better place or is making the world a better place?
Yeah. I think that when people are alive and engaged in their work, there is a huge ripple effect on your family members, on your kids, on your communities. So I love seeing people make changes that are really right for them so that they get to be lit up. And then everyone else around them is like, wow, this person is really engaged and lit up in their way. What might that version look like for me? So I think there's something just so powerful about, being engaged in your career and making the change that's right for you. And that's why I love all the stories that you highlight of what are all of the different ways that it looks like for people to be excited and engaged in their job.
In your experience, how important is to find our life purpose, and how can having a life purpose change our professional lives?
I might be in the minority here, but it stresses me out to think about a life purpose. And many of my clients are stressed out by it too, because it feels like such a big thing that we have to figure out, right? It's like, maybe I should already know this by now. What if I don't know what the answer is? So one of the frameworks that I really love comes from Tara Moore, and she wrote a great book called Playing Big. And she has a really awesome definition or framework of what she calls callings. And so we talk about, find your calling is a little bit similar to find your passion or find your purpose. And she says you can have many different callings, and some of them are going to be hour-long callings. Some of them are going to be month-long callings, and some of them may be year or lifelong callings, but you get to have a collection of them. And they don't have to show up in your job, which I think is also another important part. For some people, their purpose and passion and meaning and drive is going to come from their work. And for other people, that's not going to be the case. So I think that's kind of the framework I like to think about. Like, what is my collection of callings, or what is my collection of purpose? And then I think it can give you direction in your career when you choose how might these callings show up in a job, or what are the callings that I choose to have show up in my job? What are those hour-long callings? What are those, month-long callings? So that's generally how I think about purpose and how it aligns with your work.
Yeah, we have few other people mentioning this and saying, "Oh, I'm not sure about life purpose in such a big thing." But in my experience, I think sometimes the life purpose or our purpose can become clearer actually during our journey. So after maybe we find what we actually enjoy, and to find that thing, sometimes we just have to attempt and to experience different.
Yes.
And maybe this one works, this one doesn't work, this one, oh my God, why did I do it?
Yeah, I love that way of thinking about it. There's openness, there's curiosity, there's experimentation. I think that's absolutely the nicest way to approach it. Yeah.
I think that at some point when something is right for us, we feel something that click inside. And that is where maybe at some point we say, now I understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's what I personally see as the purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that.
And of course can change. It doesn't have to be always the same.
Yep. Yeah. I just love the grace in that, right? It's like, I'm experimenting, I'm learning what doesn't fit into the purpose, and I always get to change my mind. I think that is just, there's so much permission and grace in that. And it makes it fun instead of, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed because I don't know what my purpose is.
Why are we often scared to ask for guidance, and what difference can make having someone to guide us in the right direction?
Yeah. I think there are probably two reasons. One is there is this pressure that I have heard from so many clients over the many years that I've been doing this, that I should have it all figured out. And I think then we don't ask for guidance because that will kind of out us as somebody who doesn't have it all figured out. So I think that's a real shame. This everyone else has it figured out. I don't think that is true. I try to share as many stories as possible of, not having it all figured out. So I think that's one piece. And then I think the second piece is it's not often normalized to get support. So I always think it's interesting because in the world of sports, we always see people with coaches, right? Anyone who has at that top of their game in sports absolutely has a coach, no question. But when we think about it in the realm of career or in the realm of life, it's not as normalized. So those are, I think, the reasons why we don't ask for support. And then the benefits, I think, are so helpful, and it can look like affirming what you're choosing for yourself. So being able to talk it through with somebody and get some feedback. I think one of the biggest things for me about, working with coaches for me or asking for guidance is getting a bigger view of what's possible. I can see some of what's possible from my perspective, but when I work with other people and get guidance, I get challenged to do things that I would never consider, or I see experiences that I can create for other people, or, I learn about new career paths. Like shifting into career coaching. So that's one of my favorite parts about getting guidance, is really having my vision expanded of what's possible.
Mm. So you said my future careers may include being a teacher and running a bakery that somehow does not require me to wake up at 4 a.m. every day. If you have suggestions to add to this list, I would love to hear them. What are your plans for the future?
Yeah, I have so many interests. I am one of the most curious people ever. I like to say I'm on my third career change so far, and I am excited to see what is in the future, because there are many things that I love. I love working in customer service, which is a very unusual thing for a human to say, but I love it, love it, love it. I take professional baking classes for fun because as I said, I kind of have dreams of running a bakery at some point. So again, I think that grace to change your mind, as you said. And yeah, I'm excited for many career changes. And I love what I'm doing now. I love this business. I love supporting people with career. And I always want to give myself the same grace to continue experimenting and learning about, my purpose and what I want to get up to. So those are my current plans. But well, I'll keep you updated as to interesting future careers I get up to.
Yeah, definitely. So what type of advice would you give to anyone along their path to self-realization?
My first rule with all of my clients is to add more kindness, compassion, and grace through this process. I think it's changing careers and discovering what's right for you is such a difficult question. It can often feel like a lonely experience. I think there's a lot of, how did I get myself here? Or why don't I know what I want to do? And so if you can approach all of this experimentation with kindness and compassion for yourself, I think it makes a real difference, and kind of shifts from, as I mentioned, that I should have it all figured out by now, why don't I know, to, well, you were talking about the exploration and the creativity of it, and getting to see it as an exploration. So that's one of my biggest pieces of advice, is just be kind to yourself in this process and make it a little easier on yourself.
Hmm. What advice would you give to someone that specifically is looking to change their career? What could be a good starting point?
Yeah. I like to do two things. So one is learning about what you want and then seeing how it relates to that career. So check in with values, check in with strengths, check in with the environment that you need in order to thrive, and then say, okay, how is that going to stack up with this job that I'm curious about, or this field that I'm curious about? So really check in with what's internally important for you. And then I also like to invite people to go talk to people in that role and really get a sense for, I think that the parts that interest me about this role are XYZ. Can you tell me your experience of them? Or is that really what your day-to-day looks like? Or tell me the parts that you love about this role, and I'll see how it relates to the things that I'm excited about. So yes, there's some internal work, but sometimes we can get stuck in like the analysis on the inside and we forget to go talk to the humans. So do both of those things. Learn what's right for you and talk to as many people and really get a feel for what that career could be like.
Mm. So we're reaching the end of this episode, but before asking you the last questions, if anyone would like to get in touch with you, how can they find you? And also, you mentioned that you're going to launch your first book.
First book, yes.
You can tell us more about that.
Yes. So my website is alifeofoptions.com. And I would also love to connect with anyone on LinkedIn if you are on that platform. I share a lot of stories about what it looks like to really do what's right for you in your career. So would love to connect there. And yes, I am in the process of writing my first book, which is very exciting. And it is coming out in September. The book is called Right for You. And it is all about how do you structure your thinking? How do you make a decision that you know is going to be right for you so you can move forward with your career and the rest of your life? So you can sign up to be notified on the website. And I'm just so excited to share everything that I have learned from clients over the past 6+ years in this book coming out in September.
I like it. I like Right for You.
May we all get to find what is right for us. Yeah.
I'm sure it will get lots of attention.
I hope so. I hope it will give lots of relief and confidence and clarity to people to say, okay, I get to trust and learn what is right for me. So yes, that is my hope in the world.
How did you come up with the title?
It was a big brainstorming of what are the things I often say to people and what is really the biggest message that I want to create. And Right for You popped out. And then it was so funny because after I chose the book title, I went back to my website. I was looking at something, and literally the first thing that it says on my website, and this has been up for years, is stop doing what you think is right in your career and start doing what is right for you. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's literally been staring me in the face the whole time. But funny how I, came to it a different way and then realized that, yes, that has always been my message.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to think about it tonight.
I love it. Yes, I'll have to share a copy with you when it's ready. I'm so excited.
Oh, thank you. So now we are approaching the end of the episode, and the last question that usually we ask to every guest on the Career Changers is, if you could give yourself a piece of advice, what would you say to your younger self?
You get to have fun on this career exploration. I think it can feel so heavy and stressful and unknown, but I think I could go back and say, like, guess what? Your whole career gets to be a fun exploration, and you get to follow your curiosity, and you're going to meet fascinating people, and you're going to get to change your mind. Don't stress as much about this process. I think that would have given me a different experience of my first couple of careers.
Well, thank you, Lindsay, for joining us today and sharing your inspirational career change story and wisdom. And a last message for our listeners: don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tune in next week for a new inspirational episode of the Career Changers. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you so much.